Friends, a brand new Monday. We are doing it once again. It is hashtag Real Race Talk, the Revved Up Sports Show, coming to you live. And we are doing this from Texas, as we always do, in our Monday time slot, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern time. It is Showtime Bobby Chaffee. He's down south. He's over on the right side of your screen. I'm Rodney Rodriguez over on the left side. We look forward to talking a little bit of racing with you guys for just a little bit tonight. On the program, late edition. And again, this was a very late edition. Scheduled to talk to Tim Crawley here in just a little bit from 67 Speedway. That's over in Texarkana. Looking forward to having a conversation with him, but we've got lots to break down and lots to preview as we dive into a brand new week, and we are full bore racing. Robert, how you doing, my man?
Man, I'm just hanging out, dude. It's been an interesting couple of weeks, so just trying to get just kind of get regrouped. Had a great weekend there with the World Outlaws NOS Energy Sprint Car companion races there at Cotton Bowl Speedway. Had a couple of good nights of racing and good announcing there. So had a good time over there with our friends at Cotton Bowl Speedway. So recovering from that this week, and then just getting geared up. Actually, sort of kind of have a week off next weekend before we get back to business there at Texana there on April the 5th. So looks like I'll be looking forward to just catching up, weather permitting, for our friends over at Stems. Pulling the doubleheader there at Waco, and then Waco on Friday and I-37 on Saturday.
I think that's kind of the story right now, that as we go into the brand new week, I'm supposed to be doing some stuff out at TMS at the dirt track on Saturday with Power Eye and so forth. So kind of waiting for all of that. Everything's put into motion. But you know how these weather things get. Did you get weather last night? I mean, I was sitting here last night and I was watching different things. You know, the cup race ended. I was back into basketball, and I'm sitting here waiting. I'm going to bed, or I got into bed to go start watching basketball in bed. There's lightning everywhere. I'm thinking, okay, it's about to get out of control. They're talking about hail and all these different things that are supposed to happen. We got absolutely nothing. But I think some other folks got, half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain and some pretty massive hail. I don't know what was happening out your way.
We missed the good portion of it. We got some peace cell here, some wind and some pretty heavy downpour rain for about 30 minutes. But as far as like the bigger chunks of hail, it was like, so you know where my house is, right? You go up the next exit to the grocery store and Walmart and Lowe's and all that. That's where like if I actually was trying to go to town before it hit, if I'd have gone to town, I would have got hammered by hail. So I'm glad I was procrastinating and didn't end up going to town. So yeah, we just ended up getting pea-sized hail, so no major damage to report around these parts, at least for us. Our neighbors and stuff about 5 miles north got some good hail. So
No, that's a very good thing, because that's the thing about this, and that's where folks need to like pay attention, because I mean, I got a brand new car out of a hail thing, so it definitely will happen, and happen fast, and it'll tear you up. I mean, it just kind of sneaks up on you. Let's talk a little bit about the World of Outlaws experience. I've been able to do that a couple of different times, and it's one of those things where it's really cool to watch when they roll into town, just how when you go to a racetrack, for example, this time Cotton Bowl Speedway, and if you've been to these World of Outlaw events, not just necessarily there, but in different spots, it's like it's really funny how in this case World of Outlaws can roll in and they transform the place. It's like it's like your same spot. It's like your living room, or part of your house that you're used to going to all the time, but for 48 hours or whatever it is, the time that you're actually there as a spectator, it's a totally different place. And it's the transformation is just unbelievable what happens in there.
Well, it's pretty crazy. I mean, obviously they bring in their own banners, a lot of their own banners to hang up along the fence and stuff. So you kind of you get a more you get that special feeling. Obviously, the banners, including ours, is still up on the backstretch. A lot of the track sponsors there, the main track sponsors for Cotton Bowl, are still there, but they add in those little what do you call it, little pyramid?
Yeah.
I don't know, the triangle looking aluminum frames for the banners that show up there on Dirt Vision.
Yep.
So you got a bunch of those with the heavier duty banner. Those are kind of neat. You almost ran over one trying to push out the tires before the hot lap started. So it's that's kind of neat. They had moved the TV this time. They moved the TV over into basically right out the hot pit exit, or the track entrance, there in turn number 2. So they're having a little bit of signal problem going from the tower all the way that far over to the TV. So there was a couple of glitches of the TV there for a while, but I mean, it was still a cool experience. Got to work with Earnhardt, the producer, and then got to work with the world famous Hall of Famer John Gibson. So that was a lot of fun there on Friday and Saturday night.
The world famous, often used phrase these days is the world famous. Very well. But yeah, Johnny Gibson, I mean, that's a good dude right there. He's kind of weird, isn't he? I mean, not weird. I mean, he's very much in a zone, but you can kind of break him out of that a little bit from time to time, to where it's like, and it's funny when he steps away, because he's like, whoosh, he's gone. It's kind of like one of those, magician thing, to where it's like he's like totally honed into his job. And then it's like, boom, gone. And you don't see him for a little bit. Then he comes back in. Truly one of the best right there. One of the best is.
He's popular. He's got a following. It's kind of funny. There were some people in the suites. He was just sitting there talking to me. And I look out of the corner of my eye, and there's a couple of guys in the suite to the left. They had race control in the suite to the right. And then they had the fans of VIPs into the left side suite over there. And there were people taking pictures of him while he was talking to me. And I'm like, man, I was like, I know damn good well they ain't here to take pictures of me.
Yeah.
And then when it was over, there was a line of fans coming up to want to take pictures with him outside on the deck. So yeah, he's a popular guy. So
I tell you, man, so some of these folks that do that job, I mean, that's a really big part of the show. I mean, with what he does on the Dirt Vision part, and our man Ruben, that's another guy that's really got a great following as well with what he does. And I like that in the sense, because when it comes to that part at the racetrack, it's really hard to be able to hear everything. I mean, when you're kind of pacing around, and again, I think when it comes to those big races like that, big dirt shows or pavement shows, as well, the same thing, excluding Pensacola, because when it comes to pavement racing in Pensacola, you can actually hear those guys when they're running around, because that system is so good. But with the dirt racing stuff, it's like, yeah, you're going to hear them on the 4 wide salute. You're going to hear them on the pace laps and all that. But when the racing starts, it's very much tailored to the, in this case, Dirt Vision broadcast, and they really do a good job. And they do. I mean, these people have a following, and that's good. I mean, because this is a very hard job to do. It's a very hard job to do. And sometimes people think it's just somebody up there rattling their gums, and it's not quite that easy.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things we always joke around when people say that looks easy. Well, that's because some people make it look easy. It's not that it's that easy.
Yeah, it can be really easy. Yeah, it's all kind of the work that you put into it, and that's well, that's like anything. I mean, it kind of one of those things. But lots to really break down from the weekend because we did obviously there with World of Outlaws. It was David Gravel doubling up, winning both nights there with the sprint cars, and it's um,
And track record.
yeah, track record. But I think we're really starting to see. Of course, you had High Limits that was racing this weekend as well. With a couple of different events right there with them. But you're really starting to see kind of some of that split that we talk about all the time on the pavement late model. I mean, it's not near as with the dramatics that we're having over on the super late model side with pavement, but you're starting to see that split right there. I mean, I saw folks talking about the car count at World of Outlaws. I saw folks talking about with the double up at High Limit, kind of talking about the car count there. Of course, High Limit's a new kid in town, so it's not one of those things about a lesser car count for them. It's like it's a greater car count and a lesser car count for World of Outlaws. But it's I'm hoping that this thing can remain to where we don't get this thing out of control, and they'll be able to have a little bit for both of these because they're both really important in my opinion.
Well, they're both really important and really good series.
Yep.
So that's probably the main thing to think about. But in terms of I mean, you could see it. I mean, before when Woo was first going to Cotton Bowl, they'd have 35, 40
Yep.
something cars. I mean, I think they had 26, I think. I think they had 25 one night and 26 on Saturday. So the car count squeeze is definitely there. Not near as bad as the super late model fiasco that we're experiencing now. But it's a good mixture. I think that there's enough. Well, I say there's enough sprint cars for both of them to go around, but I think that I think that this will be interested to see how this franchise system the High Limit has, see if it rattles the cage of the World of Outlaws to start doing their own kind of franchise. I mean, we kind of seen that same thing with super late model racing with some of the extra incentives to join the full-time series of the stars. So it's versus the way that Ricky does it. So it's a challenge. I mean, it doesn't do anything good to have that split, but at the same time, they're scheduling on top of each other, but they're on opposite sides of the country. So it's not like they're actually scheduling on top of each other to a certain extent. Your superstars are going to pick and choose where they want to go, and then the rest just kind of fall in regionally and stuff like that where they're going to be. So
Yeah, and it gets to, I think we always kind of talk about when it comes to these kind of situations to where it's like, why don't you just unify and do whatever? But usually the situation is that in both of these cases that we're talking about with the sprint car, with the 410 sprint cars, the national 410 sprint cars, and with super late models, the reason that you actually have two leagues or that you have two sanctioning bodies to this is because someone has not been happy with the way that whatever the base or the initial or initial sanctioning body has been operating or the structure of it and all that, and that's why you get the other things that that develop. And I think what I do like about High Limits and but again, I'm a little apprehensive because when you did have the initial super late model split, if you want to call it that, it's not really a split. I guess it's just two different entities right there. What you did have was you had kind of some midweek stuff and all of that, and I think that's still in place. But I saw today that UARA has postponed a Cordeal event because of scheduling conflicts, and the thing is, if you look at the direct scheduling conflict, you go and you look at the other groups schedule, and there's a race then as well. So that really makes a lot of sense of what happens right there. But where it was a little disheartening for me, and I'm going to be all over the map here with this because I'm kind of correlating the two together. But with the Rattler race that we saw, and again a great race, dominating Michael Atwell win, that was on the show last week, and we saw the lower car count. Still you had a healthy car count, but not what the Rattler usually is. But when you had the Sunshine State, 200 for at Pensacola for ASA, man, that was, I mean, they had a lot
hell
of
of cars for that. Everybody was there, really.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I really kind of put up a caution flag and started thinking about stuff was when like Pollard, when Bubba didn't bring one of his cars. And again, I know that there are situations to everything, but But when I saw Bubba in the 23 car, I'm like, okay, and I get it. I mean, I totally get it. But that was a little disheartening right there, to where I'm like, okay, there's a true split right here, to where at this point ASA seems to have a little bit of the upper hand, and the reason being, I mean, it takes a lot of money, Bobby, to do this shit.
It takes a lot of money to run everything. Everything. Just pick your poison. It's all relative. It takes a lot of money to run a Crown Vic. It takes a damn hell of a lot of money to run a super late model.
Yeah.
Although you get the guys that are showing up in 36-foot haulers showing Crown Vics, and that's not necessarily great for the sport either. But
yeah, there's that also. That there's a lot of dynamic to it, where you see all the different things happening, and this is where I go back to, like we've talked about so many different times, to kind of dart all over the map once again. I mean, this past weekend in Houston, you look at what the car count was. With that, I mean, your big classes were the little cars that we talk about. I mean, you had a lot of legends, you had a lot of legacies, and that's something that we've watched across the country, to where, I mean, the one that is most notable to me is Nashville, because you turn on a Nashville race and you might get a pro late model race that's a bigger, pro late model race, but when you go and you watch the undercard, as we like to talk about it, or the support classes, I hate using that word, that support class thing. It's like kind of the undercard to the main event, like in boxing, which, by the way, RIP George Foreman taught me how to be a cook. But it's like, those are the divisions that you're really starting to see blossom. And again, for Houston, both of those did. I mean, they were just lights out, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, it's we were kind of talking about it there. Obviously, when the World Outlaws ends at 10 o'clock, you got a lot of chances to look at other racetracks and the amount of cars and the amount of people and stuff when you start, going through different streamers and different My Race Pass, researches and stuff like that. So we got to take a look at the car count there in Houston. Some of it was surprising, some of it not so much. But I don't know. I think that there are some guys that were missing, guys and gals that were missing, that talk about wanting to be there and stay there. But I'm almost starting to think that market, unfortunately, is tapped out.
Yeah.
Because I think everybody that has an active car or truck is there. I just think that there's not that much to go around on the asphalt side anymore.
I'm totally with you, dude, because it is one of those things, and I know what a lot of folks have mentioned in the past, to when it comes to that conversation, was, well, it's not worth building something for 6 races or whatever. Well, there's more races now. Yeah, all of that is
11
grown.
or 12 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah, that has grown, but it's just, it's not. I mean, pavement is so hard in the sense around here, that I think a lot of people just don't understand, if you haven't been to Texas, how big this state is. I mean, you travel around here, you've got the one track, and then when you want to talk about traveling to go different places, I mean, like our man Chris Davidson was the one that has said it so many different times, where it's like, my home track before Houston was alive and rolling once again, my home track is 500 and something miles away, to go to Pensacola, and that's your other options. But to where it comes to building something, and when we talk about something, we're talking about modifieds, trucks, these type of these classes, it just costs so much money to do them. And you've got the tire thing, you've got Hoosier, you got American Racer, you've got all of that. It's really hard to sustain that. And when folks talk about, when they talk about a lack of purse, and they talk about, the purses don't pay and so forth, that's where dirt's hitting it out of the water, dude, because they pay these big races. I was talking to some guys our guys at In Wheel Time, and they were like, explain the allure of a factory stock. I said, there are big money races. They spend a lot of money, but it's a cheaper tire. The tire's not quite, what a modified or some of that may be, but they find ways to still be able to do this. And that's where asphalt really has it. You're not going to find new customers. That's a bad thing. You're relying on past customers to make their way back, and then the ship is passed, unfortunately.
I think so, to a certain extent. I mean, you mentioned the factory stock tires when they're running on Friday night during hot laps and during the main event, or at least the heat races. When I let the dirt fans know, because obviously a lot of them are just going to be there for the World of Outlaws. When you tell them that this support class that's racing with the World of Outlaws tonight has a metric chassis, with some metric chassis parts built into it, are running 10-inch asphalt super late model pull-offs on an 8-inch rim. They turned around and looked at the tower like I was speaking French and was crazy.
Yep.
So it's like it's such a different experience. I talked to SVG about it at COTA when he was talked to him about the Red Bull experience there at Cotton Bowl Speedway. When they said, hey, you remember running those cars or whatever? He says, oh, yeah. He says, I can't believe those cars were as hooked up as they were on slicks.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an interesting concept. It's something that only seems to work here in Texas, the lower boot, the panhandle of the boot in Texas. I don't think you'll see the monopoly of the factory stock go to the Carolinas or go to Florida or anything like that. I think it's a unique beast that's it kind of relegated itself to Texas, southern parts of Oklahoma, and the western part of the boot in Louisiana. So it is what it is, of course, but that's where all the big money races are, though.
Yeah.
$10,000, $20,000, $30,000 to win. I mean, I was talking to Corey Roper about that in the tower at the World Outlaws, talking about a factory stock. He was stuck between a factory stock and an iStock. Hopefully, I'm not breaking any world breaking news, but he decided that he went with an iStock instead because he said he could travel more places around the country with an iStock.
Yeah, I think like for him, for example, I think that where he's at the point of his career and with the ability that they have to do stuff, I think that the iStock works totally great for Corey. And that's why I was hoping that we would get Tim Crawley in, because kind of the basis that I had reached out to him over the weekend was because over at Texarkana, you've got the UARA factory stocks and you have the whatever the Arkansas division is right there. And you were trying to combine stuff and you were trying to make stuff work. And what they finally decided to do there was split them. I think it was one of those things to where, do you want 14 of these, or try to do whatever? And there's how that works. I mean, when you're going to try to do that, there's always going to be a discrepancy in there. So what they've done is just essentially added another class. So I don't know if we'll get to have that conversation tonight, but if we do, we'll get it more in depth. But kind of with the factory stock thing, it's very regional. Just the same thing kind of with on the pavement side with a late model stock. And that's where that I just wish that we had more of a healthy, I guess, would we say atmosphere or whatever it may be for pavement racing here, because the late model stock in North Carolina, that's to me, that's kind of the factory stock thing that you have over there, where you have the different, obviously you've got the Cars Tour, the late model stocks there. And now with the, Harvick and Earnhardt and Trackhouse involvement with that only intensifies that, where you have all those different racetracks where the late model stocks can jump out. I'll be real honest with you. The other couple of weeks ago, or last week, I think it was, when Jared Fryer went out and won that late model stock race on a Wednesday night, I'd never heard of that division. And upon further review, that's like a really, really big late model stock division that pulls in massive car counts in the middle of the week. So if you correlate that to what we do around here, that's our factory stock, but it's on pavement. So it is very it's very regional, and it's very temperamental. And I just wish that we had that late model stock. I wish that here in Texas we had both of them. I wish that we had both of them, but that's kind of the best comparison I can draw.
And we don't even have a late model class, though. They don't even run late models in Houston. You run your late model with the Outlaws.
Yeah, a pro late model class would be great. And I did see on Saturday night, I mean, I did see, kind of where Houston had been, with the Outlaws, with 8 to 9, I think it was, which was, one of the, better fields that we've seen of those. But I mean, you look at that right there, and again, those cost some money to build, because the Outlaws, another class. We've talked to Cody, we've talked to Ricky Brooks, and we've talked to so many different people to where, there's this Outlaw class that was intended for this, and it's blown to this, but yet we can trim it down to this as a UARA sportsman. But what you have with the Outlaws in Houston, it's 9 or 10 diehards that just continue to show up, and that's, like you say, I mean, I think they've hit their ceiling, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think we see any more of those folks doing that.
I mean, it's just weird. Where do they come from? It's like the guys that are missing. If you think about the guys that were racing, not even 10 years ago, 5 years ago, the ones that switched to dirt or the ones that quit racing, they have either still on dirt or they have still not turned the key, turned a switch to turn on a race car in 5 to 10 years. And it doesn't seem like they have any intentions to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's the whole thing to where I mean, I think a lot of folks have just soured out on the idea. I mean, and I've said it so many times to where I think that when everything took a bad turn here with what was going on at CTS and Kyle, I think that was really a gut punch to a lot of people that just kind of it's like either I'm going to suck it up and go do something that I don't want to do, which is dirt, and that's because you had a lot of diehard people in here, or you have folks that were going to make the transition and go, boots on the ground, full bore into this thing, and we've seen a lot of that. But there are a lot of people that are not doing either one. And it's one of those things where I hope that Houston continues to grow. I know it's the first night, and we're not being hard on them. I mean, they did a hell of a job on getting an opening night in. But Bandoleros, I thought that there would be more.
There'd be more than one.
Thought there'd be more than one. That was another situation there to where it's like there had been. I remember in back to Kyle when it was a thing where, well, maybe we won't do the bandos because the car count's too low. No, you can't eliminate them. I'm like, well, we've had three. Where are they? And I hope that grows, but maybe with some of the connection there with INEX and having the legends involved and Texas Independent Racing, those guys really need to be applauded. We've had Jamie Call on here, and what they have done has just been tremendous. And hopefully they can grow that Bandolero crowd. But it's quarter midgets is where it is, so hopefully that's where they're going to go pluck their drivers from.
We'll see. I mean, I don't think TIR is going to end up having a problem growing that class. Obviously, first race, first night. We saw what happened to the super street stock or super stock class there in Kyle 15 years ago, where they started with a new set of rules and had one car. And then next thing a year later, that's the biggest car count they got in the pits with 30 cars. So it's, I think it's just going to be a challenge. It's the same thing. Where are they going to pull from to get those cars? Right now, I know of one person on Facebook that had a Bandolero, and that was the car that showed up.
Yeah.
Realistically, we didn't see any extra posts on Facebook. Hey, I'm getting a Bandolero. Hey, this guy I know is getting a Bandolero. We saw one Bandolero that was dead set, ready to go full bore at Houston, and that's the one that showed up. So that's the next question. Where do you get them out of the weeds? Where do you get them to come in? Just like they did with I have no doubt it'll get better. Just like it had no doubt that it ended up getting better with the legend cars. So I think that, what they have 18, 19, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, they started with 3.
Yeah.
And I have no doubt it'll get better there for TIR and the Bandoleros there at H&P.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to like with the legends and dwarfs that we've watched, with the Lone Star Dwarfs and obviously DCRST, which by the way, I think there was the nationals have been postponed. Weather here is supposed to get a little out of control. I think Thursday and Friday, I think, is when we're looking at some stuff here all across the state of Texas, intermittent stuff. But it's I totally understand the call from DCRST and Central States to go ahead and make that call early in the week, because they definitely do. I mean, they've got people that are coming in from all over the country. I mean, we're not just talking. And again, when I talk about the proximity of Texas, when I say not just Texas, I'm not downplaying the size of Texas. I mean, these are people from everywhere. They've made the call there to go ahead and do that, and I'm totally on board with that. You may get your Friday and Saturday where the weather is great, but you just can't. You can't. With the money that they're spending to get here, you can't take that chance that
the closer you get to race date, the less refundable the hotel rooms are.
Right. Exactly. But the thing with this, where I think the legends and the legacies, because you go back and you look at what the legacies have done, and I know that in Houston right now, the legacies are a part of the within the track, but go back and look when the legends really grew. I mean, that was our man Jason Simmental that kind of really took that and grew it and brought them back. I mean, it was that. What we're watching with the Texas Independent Racing, that has grown itself. It's one of those things where it really takes somebody or people that are really going to go in there and do it on an individual basis and govern themselves in a lot of times, and really take the bull by their horns and go out and find sponsorship and go out and do all these different things to really get them into races, because it's really hard for the racetrack to do that. I mean, because the racetrack is not, full time and all that. And I think what I'm trying to say here is it's got to be an independent, self-governing thing, I think, to really grow the pavement side to where you look on the dirt side, and now we've got all these different sport mods and limited modifieds and B, C, D, E, F, G, Yo Mama mods. I mean, you've got all those, but yet they don't struggle with count quite as bad. So I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Oh, your camera messing up again.
Yeah, I'm gonna go charge that. I forgot to plug it in.
Oops. Well, I think that it just the difference is that we've just got to find the next generation of racers that have decided that they want to run on asphalt. You know, we've spent so many years with having limited access to asphalt racing, or with one limited racing track there in Houston, that it just became such a challenge to try and get racers to want to go back to asphalt racing. Like we said, they've either sold all their stuff or have no intentions of coming back. And the ones that went to dirt have no intentions of coming back to asphalt. The only one I could think of is that Tommy Grimes.
Yep.
Ran the dirt trucks, and now he's back running an outlaw. So I think that is a unique scenario in itself, but you need 15 more Tommy Grimes to make up a really good race in the trucks and the modifieds and the outlaws, right? Then there's not going to be that many.
Yeah, and I think this is a really cool point that our man Colin Bell brings up, talking about, I mean, the asphalt tracks and everything that was going on around here, and in South Texas, South Central Texas, I mean, it was, you had your pick of the litter where you wanted to go in the 80s, 90s, and into the 2000s, but this is where it's so different now, because with these tracks, and San Antonio dirt tracks didn't have as many classes for kids back in those days. You had the kids class was like the Bombers, or
they couldn't get into, they were 14.
Yeah. I mean, there was none of
you ran quarter midgets until you were 14, big enough to get in a real size, full size bodied car.
Exactly. One of the coolest stories that I ever heard was our man Bruce Wright, that talked about when he was him and his dad racing quarter midgets at here in Austin, out there off Breaker Lane. And it was, Bruce finally was able to jump into a Chevelle that he bought from the Duke, Jake Wallace, and Jake Wallace goes and drops his car off at their old place out there in that Breaker Lane area, and Jake dropped it off in the area of the septic tank, and the damn shit sunk. Not shit, I mean, the car literally sunk into the shit where he dropped it off, and that was like Bruce's first soiree into stock car racing back in those days. But it really is that is a huge point to where it has changed so much that there weren't bandoleros, there weren't junior limiteds, and I get it now. I mean, I totally get it, but the quarter midget thing really was, and that's where, like, when we talk about with all the great kids, that we've talked to, talking to Mr. Pena here the other night, to where they graduated from that. I mean, you graduated right out of those into the big cars, man. It was like, holy, I remember, I mean, I was 14, Bobby, when my dad threw me into a Nova, and it was like, he's like, okay, you need to drive 250 laps or as long as you can until they throw the checkered flag, and you'll be done. I'm like, what? I mean, I wanted to do it, but it's like, are you kidding me? It's crazy. Different times.
Way different times. And it costs a lot more now to do enduros and stuff like that. So we'll see. I'm interested to see how that shakes out there at Rocket with the SuperTech 600 this year. Yeah. That'll be an interesting place. We still think that the best place to hold that would be Cotton Bowl, but then you'd have to have the overflow parking.
Yeah,
for them, but it's I don't know. I mean, I don't think we have a magic wand that can fix Houston. Not that it's broken. I mean, I'm happy the people that showed up. They put their money where their mouth is and wanted to race, so they showed up and they raced. That's good. It's the same thing on a weekly dirt show. The guys that showed up and they wanted to race, put their money where their mouth is, and boom, there they are.
And I do think, I mean, it's going to get better. I mean, it's going to get better. You will get more, like with, it's really hard, like with the eco stocks, for example, to where I like the move that was made with them that we talked about last week with the tires. That to me, that's a very good move when it comes to the cost effectiveness part of all that, because it's, I guess, right. It's a cheaper tire. I don't know what those tires cost.
Under $100.
Okay. So to me, that's good. But at the same time, you've got folks where you have tires, and it's like, we say it's a cheaper tire, but still you're kind of like, so why do I have to buy another tire? So I get that part. But where I saw people talking about maybe the eco class being down, it actually hadn't been blowing the doors off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
So,
been 9 to 10 for a couple of years now.
yeah, yeah. So it really
I
is
mean,
one of
back
those.
when in the day it was what 18 to 20.
Yeah, it's just a different time to where this is one of those things that you have to look at. Houston is going to continue, and everything's going to be fine. And you're going to have, I think, what you need to prepare for with Houston is you need to be prepared for a roller coaster. I mean, you may have a night where it's like boom, it's back. Oh my God, I'm sorry. It's back. Whatever's going to happen. Then again, the next time you may go to the racetrack and there's nothing going on.
Little is excited tonight. That's I don't have the dog here over my shoulder tonight. There was one dog in here, but you couldn't see him because he doesn't jump up on the couch. But I think that it's the first night. We didn't have the number of cars that we wanted at Texana opening night, but we were very grateful and happy with the cars that we had. So I think that it's the same thing with Houston. I don't think they had the car count they were looking for, but then again, I think they're very happy for the cars that showed up.
Yeah, and that's a whole thing, and it will get better. It will get better, and like I said, we're not frowning at anything. I mean, it's a masterful job of getting stuff done, and you've got different people in place there. I mean, they got the first night in, and that's the biggest part of it. So I'm sure it's a big sigh of relief right there to just kind of get that one done, and they'll regroup and get ready for the next one coming up. I believe it is on April the 12th. I think that's
12th.
Yeah, that's when you guys are going as well. So those will be great events to watch. You mentioned the SuperTech 600 that's coming up. You did have the Solo 275 this past weekend. That was over at Arclatech Speedway. Dustin Smith, your winner there, followed by Jeremy Wilson, Justin Collins, Jamie Songer, Derek Wilson. That is 1 through 5. 275 laps. He had one car that ran 275, and that was the winning car of Smith. So those are kind of the back home events right there, where when you have those, that kind of gives you that old feel. I don't care what surface you're on. I saw somebody had posted something about having an enduro in Houston. I don't really care where there's an enduro. Those are just the ones that that's what it's all about. Set amount of laps, get to the end of it. Whoever wins, wins. Run what you brung almost, and just let it happen.
Well, I think that's what makes the Lone Star 600 so special, is that the rule book is like one page, and it's a very simplified rule book.
Yeah.
But I also think that speaking of the enduro, the 275, our buddy Dalton Faulkner won the factory stock race at Cotton Bowl on Friday night, and the next night he was up at Arclatech running somebody's car for the enduro. So that was an interesting tidbit for his racing there on Friday night. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I think enduros have their own, and it's weird. You have guys that don't run anything else, but will run an enduro.
Yeah.
That had raced at other surfaces, including asphalt, including dirt, that decided they no longer want to do that. They want to just run the enduros because they have more fun.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's part of it. I mean, I don't know how you make racing more fun. I mean, racing is fun enough as it is, but there's a certain amount of luck and a certain amount of shit happens involved in it too. So
I think
I don't know.
That's what makes those events so cool. I mean, in the sense, Dustin Smith is, I believe he's out from the Houston, Cypress, area. Again, a racer. But I mean, you go and you look at these, just kind of browsing through the final results here of the enduro. I mean, you look at they had 50 some odd cars in this race. I mean, look at these names. You get out there and you race. You had Corey Neal Jr. that finished 10th. Just kind of some of the names I'm going through right here. Justin Whitehead was 26th. Faulkner was 28th. Howard Willis was 31st. I mean, that's, to get out there and race with those guys where you're pretty much on an even playing field. I mean, they may get out there and kind of wax your ass for a little bit, but you're going to catch up to them is the whole thing. And that's where I think that enduros and so forth. And like with a lot of the folks now that I know a lot of folks, I know our man Steve Sims has done this in the past, where they do like the 24 hours of lemons, some of the rally crossing and all that, to where it still gives you that competitive juice, and it's somewhat on a level field to where folks are just soured away from what we do in the oval track stuff, because you get outpriced and you get pissed off, so there's lots of options right there. The enduros are great, and I think that SuperTech 600 is going to be great. But yeah, CBS would be amazing for that. Marianne's like, you guys don't be putting me in that spot, but that would be a great place for that.
Well, they ran an enduro one time. It was remotely successful. I had a few cars at it, so I was the announcer for that enduro.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
10, probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 6, 7 by now. But yeah, it was an interesting. It was right around as a cold ass race. I remember that because it's cold up in that tower.
Yeah. Some of our results that we had from the weekend, as we kind of sit here and jockey yak our promoters and throw all the different ideas that we have with the Lucas Oil late models. You had on Friday night, you had a double dip right there talking about late models and the different things there with what you have going on. It was Ricky Thornton Jr. on Friday night and Devin Moran, the winner on Saturday. So stacked fields right there. And I'm really getting into the late model. Those are a hell of a lot of fun to watch, and you had a couple of really good shows right there.
Well, it's because it's the way that those races, when you have a streamer that showcases all of those all the time, that it makes it a good show because it becomes the show that you're used to watching.
Yeah,
that's the thing, and then you start comparing other shows to that show and all of that. So it's the same nature of the beast, but yeah, I think that the way that it's working, that's the one thing that I remember. Totally working with Dirt Vision this weekend is that it's still hard to believe that pretty much regardless of the streamer now, most of them, whether it be Racing America, Flow, Race On, Speed Sport, whatever it is, the XR stuff, right? So I think that it's now the production levels are so high, and you can watch them on an app. You just don't realize you're watching stuff on the internet anymore.
Yeah,
I think it's because it's so second nature. We've had this conversation when the show first started about everything going to streaming. Well, hell, I watched part of my ESPN package the other day. I watched part of the Formula One race on my ESPN Plus app.
Yeah,
on my tablet when I was trying to figure out what was going to happen with that. So I think now that all these streamers have apps and you can go right to it and start watching the races. Some of them, Racing America has a channel there on DirecTV.
Mm-hmm.
And so that becomes a cool way to watch it. I can watch a bunch of old races on the DirecTV feed that I have in my house. So I watched an old street stock race the other day of the New Year's Bash from 2024 and 2025. They're on the streaming channel for Racing America.
Yeah,
they're on DirecTV. So it's there's so much out there. We always think about the demise of racing and how it's going to go away and all that. When you start watching all these streamers start streaming these stuff, there's no shortage of racing. You just got to get out there and find it. Yes, there's track closing, and yes, there's some big name tracks that's closed over the years, but man, the racing's out there. You just got to find a way to get to it.
Yep. That's right. Speaking of tracks, this one is not closing. This one is thriving. Let's dive in here as we head to Texarkana, and we welcome in our man, Tim Crawley. Tim, are you on the track or are you on the road, my man?
Man, I'm here. I was at the track. I got to the gate. I started trying to log on. I apologize. I kept hitting it. I could never get it to accept. And then I messed around and got in Home Depot and got cornered with some people and got to talking. And then my wife goes, "Hey, you're supposed to be on a podcast." I went, "Ooh." So anyway, time got away. I did. I tried right at 7 to get on, and anyway, it wouldn't let me click on for some reason. I relocated. Anyway, I'm here. I'm in Texarkana. Just walked out of Home Depot. It's people I don't think realize the amount. I mean, some do. I shouldn't say that for certainty, but I just don't think people realize the hours that you can put in at a racetrack. I mean, it's just. I feel bad sometimes if I quit, but I start at dark and I quit at dark, and it's an endless amount of work. It's just insane what you can do.
Tim, talk about that part, because I watch all your videos, and I got to meet you there at Chili Bowl and just kind of different conversations that we've had. I mean, one of the things that you were so adamant about, and like with your videos in the last month or so, you want to make the racetrack better. You want to make that racetrack better for your customers. You want to fix these spots and do these different things. Kind of talk about that part, how that drives you to give them the best damn racetrack that you can.
Yeah, I just took, and I don't know. I just heard you say damn, so I'll
Oh yeah.
say this. I spent and I did. I drove for some unbelievable people. You know, I did a 10.5 year stint with Mike Ward and some of the best equipment I had ever had. And I have drove a lot for some really good teams and equipment, but I also raced on my own dime a lot of years trying to make chicken salad out of chicken
There it
shit.
is.
So, you know, I just, I have that drive in me. I have that passion. And so when I quit, hung up the helmet, I've just taken that drive and transferred it over to taking everything we have here and just trying to make the absolute best out of it. You know, I don't always have, I've got great backing, support, an awesome partner in the place, but still some days you may not have exactly what you want or wish for, but I take everything in front of me here and just make the absolute best of it. I'm training my mind now to try not to let, it's so hard when you're that passionate, when you get people that are just negative in life in
Yep.
general. I get that, but they'll attack you. You know, it doesn't matter. You'll start building a library of people that you'll see that they just must live miserable lives because they never have nothing nice to say.
Amen.
And you really got to train your mind to block those people out. You know, they're just misery loves company, and you got to just get to a point where you can say, you know what, there's a handful of those people. It doesn't matter. You know, if you paid them in 20s, they'd want hundreds, and vice versa. You got to block them people out. But on the flip side, I'm not trying to drag a bunch of negativity in. You were asking, so um, I do have a ton of people that reach out and thank me all the time, and it's different people, and there's a lot that really are appreciative and that really understand that it's a sport that, you know, it's just not money hand over fist type business. It's not that way. I mean, you work and work and work, and you're so susceptible to Mother Nature, you know, and that's something that was hard on me these last few years to learn. You know, when you own a race car and it looks like rain somewhere where you were planning on going that weekend, you just say, oh well, and you look at other options and you say, well, I'll go here and race, or I'll just stay home, or you can plan on that on a Monday or Tuesday. With the racetrack, you can't do that. You've got to stay in race mode till you can't
Yep.
race. And in the back of your mind, you're like, damn man, I know it's going to rain, but I can't, I can't quit.
Mhm.
You just got to go till you can't. That's a tough one to get over. That's a hard one to learn. Um, and so it's a lot of headache. I mean, it's a tough gig to balance. But I somewhat knew, you know, I'd done some small stuff over the years back, you know, a long time ago. I messed with some motocross stuff and dabbled with some winter series and go-kart promoting, and did a couple years of winter indoor series stuff, and, you know, a lot smaller scale than having a complete, you know, task of a racetrack.
Mhm.
But I got my feet wet, and then just being around the, you know, driving side and racing side all those years, I kind of knew what I was getting into, but you never know until you're
Mm.
in. You know, then you really, you can get your feet wet or you can get soaked. And once you get soaked, you're like, geez, man. But you know, I'm so hands-on. I'm OCD. I'm picky. I'm anal. I'm whatever you want to call it. But I just, you know, I'm just passionate about the whole place, from the concession stand, the food, the grass. I mean, I just want a really nice place. I want, when people pull in the gate, I want them to go, wow, you know, man, this place is clean. This is nice. And I want our staff friendly. I want good, fair price food. I, you know, we got a vision here, and we're just trying to make it, you know, come to fruition. And I think we've gained a lot of traction in the last year. You know, our followings, our numbers, our everything is, I don't know, it just seems like our first year was almost non-existent because of so many
Yeah.
rainouts. I mean, it's just like our first year, man, we just got our teeth kicked in with rain. And in year two, it got better. You know, we got a few more races in, and we started kind of just, but we've had construction of some sort going on the entire time. I've not, every week I've had to pick and choose. All right, this is a good week to work on this. This is a good week to work on this. It's never been just cut the grass, water the track, and we get ready for next
Right.
week. I've been in full-blown construction mode also since day one. So, and I see a big picture here. I just want one of the nicest facilities in this area, and just some good racing. I've caught hell from the track being too heavy, and and that's another thing. I think our racers anymore, and I don't know how to say this other than just
Yep.
saying it, just flat putting it out there. I think our old timers that used to prep racetracks, they're dying off and they're leaving the sport. They're not there anymore. And again, I'm not calling any of these people that work on tracks lazy by any means. It's just I don't think people are ripping the tracks up and preparing a big bed of moisture and having these hooked up joints anymore. It's just they're watering them and rolling them in just tight as they can get them,
Mhm.
and that's what you got. And it's to me, it's made a bunch of boring racing around the bottom, and too many times it takes rubber, and the fans are getting dusted out. They got to turn their head when the field of cars comes by. They can't even
Mhm.
watch without getting just pummeled with dust. And I've just busted my tail to try to go the opposite direction. And I ain't gonna lie, I've made a lot of people mad. Oh, it's too heavy. It's too heavy. We can't race. Well, I try to be nice, but man, when I grew up racing, you ponied
Yep.
up. You you just bowed up and you raced. And now everybody's so trained to these concrete racetracks that that's just if you don't have that, then they cry
Mhm.
about it.
Mhm.
And so I'm trying to give a little. I'm not going all the way, but I'm giving a little. I'm trying to keep our track harder in the middle for these. We put together a 15 race championship series deal and doing a banquet this year and all that. And um, I'm caving a little, but I'm not going to cave all the way. We're going to have a cushion. I want people banging the fence, that hugging around the bottom, taking rubber stuff. I'll hang my hat up before I fall into that. Um, I'm not going down
That's
that
right.
road. So I don't know. You got any more questions for me?
No, that's
Apologize
all
for
right.
being
That's all
late.
right. Go ahead, Bobby. Sorry.
No, we got all the sound bites we need for sure. And I think, Tim, I think one of the things even we know about this show is that the social media can be a great thing in promoting and speaking to the choir and getting new fans involved and all that. The problem is that it made assholes on the internet more self-entitled. I call it the cold
Oh,
dog
guarantee you.
theory, right? The racing can be great, the track can be on point. You can have 5 wide coming to the finish of every single race, and somebody's going to get online and bitch about a cold hot dog. Or too
You
many,
bet.
too many. We had one promoter come on and said they bitched about too many jalapenos on the nachos, and that's the problem. And then
Yes,
you get
yes.
somebody else that says, "Hey, well, 5 years ago when I was there, when a different promoter was there, they don't mention that I had too many beans in my chili dog." So I think that
Yeah,
the plight
yeah.
of the promoter, one of the things that Roddy and I pride ourselves on is we try to get promoters on, and I think about just the fact that I think that the racers now, some of them, not all of them by no means, are understanding that there's a hell of a lot of work involved than just going in on Friday or Saturday night at about 5:30, unlocking the pit gate, flipping on the lights, and putting a little water on the track. There's a hell of a lot more involved than that, and I think that it's good that promoters get on shows like ours and say, "Look, y'all, this is while it's a passion for mine." It's going to give me early heart attack symptoms just because of the fact that it's not as easy as y'all think it is, and we're not making the money that y'all think it is just because you guys have to pay to race.
Yeah, everything you just said is 100%, and I would challenge anyone, come live with me for 7 days and just shadow me. They'll just hand me tools and chase me around for
There you
seven
go.
days and start to finish every day for 7 days and come back and tell me what you think. It's brutal. And then also, when it comes time when it's 110 degrees outside, and I mean, you're out in that all day, and on race weekends, I'm out there unlocking the gate before the sun comes up. And then some nights I don't get to bed till, 4 a.m. because then when you're done, it's, you got to make sure everybody gets out of the pits and lights are shut off and equipment shut down and radios are all gathered up and everybody's transponders are in. And it just, the very end of the show, closing everything out, you're frazzled, you're beat, you're just running on adrenaline, but you got to shut everything down, and it's just one more hellacious project. But the motorsports person in me still, when I stand in that infield and I see these kids and these youngsters, and I got people that I personally know, just like from home, that come over, and I see these kids out there racing and, showing some extreme talent, under the steering wheel, and doing slide jobs and racing around a foot off the wall. And, that's the only moment that I can set. I've got my truck all wrapped. I kind of use it as a pace truck now, and I get in it and I just kind of watch, and that's the gratifying moment, when I look up there and people are eating decent food at a fair price, and we don't have dust just blasting the stands, and I see these new kids out there racing their ass off. And, at that moment for a few hours at a race night, I sit back, and that's when it's gratifying, But the other, I don't know, couple 100 hours in the week, you're just wondering what you're doing, it's tough. It's really tough. I've always respected the people that did it and do it 100%. I've never not understood their game and what they did. But, now after being, I guess, 2.5 years in this side of it now, I really, I've got even a lot larger amount of respect for the people that's done it all these years. It's a tough business for sure.
Tim, I do want to ask you because and I reached out to you because I've watched. We talk about factory stocks and we talk about classes and too many classes, and we talk about all the different stuff and what factory stocks do and have become around here. Just kind of touch on you with USRA, Arkansas factory stocks. I mean, I like what you did right there to where you kind of had that situation. You handled it. It's like you're not going to kind of pussyfoot around and do different things with it. Here's the way that we're going to do this. Kind of talk about the way all that happened.
We're on the map as far as, logistically where the track lies. So we're kind of in a bad spot as far as being totally supported by any one series. So we're a little bit too far west to really say all and get all the support from the Arkansas factory stocks. We're a little bit too far north and east to get a ton of support for like the USRA type factory stocks. So, and we're a Friday night track. So when you factor in, people got to get off work to come to us, makes it tough. Then when you factor in just, logistically where we lie, it's tough. So I get all the Arkansas guys, that a lot of those people I personally know because they're over around home. Hey man, I thought you was on our side. Why don't you support us? Why don't you running us? I'm like, okay. Then the USRA guys are like, oh yeah, I see how you are. You want to support them. I get it. I get tugged at from both sides, and it's mainly just the factory stock class. So we did everything we could last couple of years to blend them, and it was doing okay. And yes, Arkansas class has a little bit more horsepower. And so I got with Chuck over here at Best Engines, and we dynoed a restrictor plate a week ago, and saw a way of making it work. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. One of our local guys here came last year and won an Arkansas factory stock race with his USRA car with just headers on it. But it's Justin Whitehead. He wins all over the place all the time. He's a wheel man. He's a car builder. He's on his A game. So, I know it could be done, but the problem I run into is people's mindset was off and their mind was set. So I can't fix their mindset, once their mind is set. That sounds crazy, but that's just where we were at. And so we did some testing after the races Friday night, and Keaton Atkinson, the Arkansas factory stock from home. He's really fast. He's going to win no matter what rule package you put on him. But we put 3 cars on the track and put transponders on them, and I could see 100% how it would work. And I think it would really been a fair manner of going about it, and an easy deal just to throw that restrictor plate on the Arkansas guys and let's race. But problem was I had people from home, I'm not putting a restrictor plate on. And then I had people with the USRA side, we're still not running one. Even if you put a restrictor plate, it's still not right. So when I kind of sat down and looked at it, I thought, you know what? We'll dig. We wanted to run 5 classes. We were Friday night deal. We were trying to look at a program to get over with as quick as we could. Was trying to do everything we could to make it a 5 class deal. So we already started this points deal, which we started something brand new. I don't think anybody's went at a points deal like we're doing this year. It's kind of something I'll just hit me in the middle of the night when I do my best work sometimes when I'm dead asleep. And so we're doing something different on this points deal. We've already started it, so it's hard to back up. So what'd we do? We dug in the pocketbook. We added a class. We took them from being split or being combined. We split them. They're their own each individual class now. Added to our points deal. We're going to run 6 classes. So if they don't come support that, then they just don't want to race. Because there's no excuses now. We busted them apart. Everybody seems to be happy now. I know at times we may have a night or two where the car count's not quite where I wanted. Again, putting them together, I wanted 20 cars on the track every time we have a main. I just don't like having A mains that there might be 12 or 14 cars. I like full fields when they roll out. That was the other goal we had in mind there, but we're going to split them up. Our points deal, we chose to go non-sanctioned this year completely. We're unsanctioned in every way, but instead of having sanctioning fees, licensing fees, anything, our guys pay a $20 registration fee, and 100% of that goes in their point fund. We set up 5 classes, 1,000 each to win. We put that out guaranteed if we didn't run but 2 nights. Now we have a Simmons Bank come on board. We have a Simmons Bank account that we post the week after every event, and it updates, the points tallies and the monies as it'll accrue all year long. So we got a 15 race schedule set for that championship series, and every night. So example is like we had 30 factory stocks that opening night. That was $600 winning their point fund. That'll go all year long. We get 30 cars every night, get 10 nights in, that's $6,000 in their points fund. So I didn't think everybody really read how that was going to shake down, but now that we've started posting our Simmons Series account every week or after every event, they're seeing it and they're like, wow, this could get good. And that's what I was trying to say. The more people y'all push, the more car count we have. It's 100% going back in your pocket. It's the registration fees, not for the track. It's for each class's points. And we also, the 50-50 we do. Of course, the winner gets the winning ticket, but the 50 that the track could keep or do something with, 100% of that's going in their points fund. And we update that post-race as well. So kind of at our local level, whoever supports our series deal this year, we'll have a banquet in January, and it should be pretty good. If Mother Nature lets us get the majority of those 15 nights in, it's going to be pretty nice. A tuner guy, I think a national series last year was like $500 for a tuner. This year it's $1,000 just to support our track. So I just don't know what else we can do. We're doing everything we can to get just that, series deal alone. This is not our special events. This is our 6 class series deal for, I hate to use the word weekly or regular because it's, to me, that degrades a show. This is our championship series events, and we got 15 of them scheduled.
That's right.
So, Tim, you talk about the challenge on a Friday night, being a Friday night track. Waco is the one that comes to everybody's mind because they've been doing it on Fridays for 50-something years. What challenges do you face up in your area with Friday? Obviously, you got to kind of chop the season off right when football starts up there, I'm assuming. But, I mean, what other challenges do you face on a Friday night?
That's a big one, and we're going to go ahead and it's liable to just kick our butts real bad, but we're going to run into football season and all the way into November. I've got 3 races the first 3 weekends of November in our championship series, but once we get to November, after Vivian and Boot Hill shut down, we're going to move our November stuff to Saturdays and run the first 3 weekends of November. It seems as though our weather pattern, absolutely, our season has shifted a month, it seems like, because which we'll do this year and it'll be cold, but in the past few years, man, we're normally in shorts and t-shirts all the way to Thanksgiving, anymore. So we're going to race all the way into that 3rd weekend in November with our championship series deals. So, but Fridays, yes, I think, Fridays is just tough unless you live, I think Texarkana's 30,000 people, I believe, 29 something, 30,000. And so unless you're in a town where you've just got where the entire area within, an hour of you can be your car count, your back gate, your pits and your car count, if they've got to travel from 2 hours away, then Fridays are just tough, especially on like this series deal, because those people all have jobs,
Yep.
and it's just hard for those people. And that was another thing you'd love to start at 7 and get over with and get everybody out early, but on Fridays you just can't do that. I mean, we literally have people, pushing the draw cutoff every time we race on Friday nights. They're calling, "Oh, I'm on my way. Bear with me. I'm trying to get there." And that's a Friday night struggle. Everybody's trying to get off work early and get there. So even our crowd, I used to worry about it. I'd look up at 7 o'clock and it would seem, where's everybody at? And then in a minute, it's just 7:30, 8 o'clock. Here they
Yeah.
all come. So it's just a, it's just a struggle to get everybody in there on Fridays. All our, that series deal, that 15 race series deal, everybody's got jobs. It's not your, professional full time, people in motorsports that's their
Yeah.
living. So all these people got to get off work to get there. So that's what Friday night is just, it's just a
Yeah.
struggle.
Lastly, Tim, and thanks for jumping on with us, man. This has been great. Kind of talk about this weekend. You got a big one. You got the Comp Cams late models that'll be in for the Mitchell Memorial. Some of the other stuff throughout the year. You've got high limits that's coming in. You've got the Parker. I mean, there's so many different events along with the weekly stuff that you have going on. I think you've got the Mod Lights of Arkansas this weekend. Kind of talk about just some of those other events outside of the weekly stuff that you have.
Yeah, we kind of swung for the fences for sure this year on scheduling. We've got, like you say, we got Comp Cam's late models coming in with Moyer and Culp and Robinson and Mitchell and all them guys following Comp, and Mod Lights of Arkansas are coming. They're predicting maybe 30 of their guys coming. They're really looking forward to it. They seem to love the racetrack. Again, after that, we got a couple more of our series deals. Then High Limits, we got a midweek show. Kyle has got it on his schedule. He can't ever guarantee being there for cup obligations, but it is on his schedule, so he should be there. Moving along a little, I got with Nathan Moore was wanting to start us on a Wednesday, a midweek deal with a Race Saver 305 Speed Week that he's helping put together this year to start. I think, which, like I say, year one on a speed week deal, it may take a year or two to really get it going, but I think it's got traction. I think a lot of the guys, I think we'll have a good car count. We just got to get the word out so people can get in on that. We got our July Ralph Henson Memorial again, our big fireworks show. We had them hanging off the fence last year for that. I think everyone from home around Little Rock always really knew Tracy's fireworks shows were phenomenal, and we actually hired the same pyrotechnic contractor. It's a heck of a fireworks show with the big bombs, and it's July 12th. We don't do it on the 4th weekend. That way everybody can go to the
There you go.
lake and do their thing. But we're just past it there on the 12th. Everybody still kind of got Independence Day on their mind. And it's a 410 wing sprint car show. The Vroom series is supposed to come over from Memphis with those nostalgic cars. I believe even got word Gary Wright might be creeping in a car at our place that weekend with the wing modifieds. That one should be really good weekend. And later on, again, we're just really going to cross our fingers that Mother Nature will let us get short track nationals in.
Yep.
2 years in a row rained out. I mean, it's back to, in October. We're just really going to cross our fingers and hope we can get that deal in this year. It'll be 20,000 to win short track nationals. I mean, we got an exciting schedule, and hopefully some of these specials we can creep them in there.
Well, Tim, we appreciate the time, dude. Obviously, we love to hear the true stories and the true life plights of the promoter, right? Because I think that the more that the promoters can get out in front of the racers and be like, look, we don't just sit here and just turn the lights on and take in money. I think the better off everybody is in the racing ecosystem. So we appreciate the time. Don't worry about being late. That's why this show is live every single week, because we just roll with the punches we're given, just like you promoters do. So thanks for coming on, and enjoy the rest of have good success the rest of the year. And hopefully we'll get you back on when you get some more time, and we'll talk about some of these bigger races coming up for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, just reach out, and I promise I'm usually pretty punctual. I'm usually never late for anything, or try not to be. So I owe you one. But yeah, yell back. I'd come on anytime.
Man, I'll see you up there. I'm going to make my way up there. We've kind of talked about some stuff, so I'll see you soon, brother. Looking forward to a great year out there.
Yep.
All right, man. Take care. You bet. There he goes. Tim Crawley, promoter. Eat, sleeps, and breathes this shit right there.
Yep.
That, it's a lot of times as he's talking right there, my initial thoughts are, why? I mean, it's just so much, but that dude, I mean, he kind of mentioned it there. That's a racer. I mean, so many of the great promoters that we have nowadays, they were racers, and Tim, I called races for him. He and I, when we were talking at Chili Bowl, it was like we started talking, and he was telling me about 67, and I'm like, Tim. And he's like telling me things, and I'm like, I've called this dude's races, so man, the passion right there. And they've got that schedule really is 67 Speedway of Texarkana.com. Check it out, because that thing is loaded. And that's and I'm talking outside of his series. I'm talking about the 67 series nights. It's the high limits thing. I mean, there are so many big ass races that are going to be happening over there.
Well, that's good. That's a good problem to have. I mean, like you said, swinging for the fences. The problem is all these fans want all these elaborate shows. Oh, I want this series, and I want this series, and I want that series. I heard it this weekend. Everybody's like, oh, why couldn't we get a World Outlaw late model race at Kyle or at Cotton Bowl? Kyle. I talked to people about Kyle at Cotton Bowl.
Hard to break, man.
And then, there's like, why can't we get a World Outlaw race down at Texana and all that? I was like, you don't realize the amount of money it takes to bring in these national series. So you got to support the races that are there. But when you get a chance to have, your local track or a track within a couple of hours, if you bring in these national events, we've talked to Ray at I-37 about it. Streaming is great, but asses in the seats help bring them events back and keep them coming back.
Yeah, and a lot of times to where, I mean, the tracks do get paid. I mean, the tracks do get paid, to host these races, but at the same time, it costs the tracks a lot of money to be able to put these on. And I know, like with the World of Outlaws in the past, there have been times where I remember the first few times that they came in, and it was really frustrating after they left, because they come in, and like we said at the beginning of the program, they go in and they revamp the place, and then you have to get it back to where to regular extracurricular stuff that you're doing all the time. So it gets to be a lot. It's a lot that goes into that. And John Mandeback was one of the guys that told me early on, when I kind of made the crossover and was getting out of a car and more into doing these kind of things, to where it's like, if I go in and I'm going to bring in a sanctioning body that's going to host a national or a regional, I think at that time he and I were just kind of sitting there, maybe having a dollar beer, talking about ARCA or something like that. He's like, look, if I go in and I schedule them and I'm on the hook for that, I pay them. I'm going to pay them when everything's agreed, the dotted lines are signed, everything is done. I pay them to come to my track. If it rains, if it whatever the case is, I'm not I'm probably not going to get that back, and I may not get another date, and that is a lot. That is a lot. So when these series and stuff come in, and I think that's where like there at 67, it is so cool because you have like this weekend with the Mitchell Memorial, and then you have the Mike Parker and all the different races to where those homegrown big events that are really such a big thing. And Texarkana, like for the Texans, Texarkana, it's I think for me it's about a 5-hour drive. So I mean that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad little trip to go watch some cool ass racing.
Yeah, just go up to Dallas and get on 30 and just keep
Straight
on
up.
going, right? Yeah.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, nothing to it. Just kind of veer off a little bit over there, and it'll park you right there, or right in there. So not a bad thing at all. Tim Crawley, great conversation right there. We'll get that podcast up because that really is a great promoter's perspective. Some of the other racing we talked about high limits. It was that double dip that we talked about with them. Brad Sweet on Friday night, Aaron Reitzel on Saturday, and kind of talking about that. That's where kind of you start feeling that to where it's like, okay, you've got these hot shoes over here, and then you've got obviously David Gravel, the other guys on World of Outlaws, kind of to where you see a little bit of that, and it's like they're both doing okay, but a little part of me is, man, we don't need to go down that road. That Pensacola race that we talked about, the Sunshine State 200, Cole Butcher, I mean the Canadian, that guy. I've talked to him a couple of different times. He jumps in those Donnie Wilson cars, and that dude right now. And it's like, we talk about Majeski and Bubba and Stephen Nassy and a lot of these guys, but Cole Butcher, look at that dude's resume, man. That back to back. I mean, back for him in the Sunshine State 200. This guy just wins big races. That's all he does. Nothing to it. Just shows up and wins big races. Doesn't say a lot. Just wins big races.
Nothing wrong with that. And then if you're not tearing up equipment and winning big races, that attracts car owners to you. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Jake Garcia, Matt Craig, Stephen Nassy, Kobe Howard rounding out the top 5 there at Pensacola in the ASA Stars Tour. Cordele did have the Pro Late Model event happening, and it was Jet Nolan who has really found his groove right there, and he's really good in the supers also, kind of a little quiet. Casey Roderick, Luke Yarbrough, Garrett Gum, and then our man Chris Tullis. That is your top 5 at Cordele. And best thoughts there to Madison Bragg. I still don't know the full details there, but I saw that she was involved in something and maybe had to have some medical attention at the end of that.
Hey, did you see, speaking of ARCA, did you see that finally get a huge field of ARCA cars there at the ARCA race at Pensacola?
A lot of Saturday.
Cars. A lot of cars for an ARCA race.
Hell of a lot of cars. And that was a good weekend there for Tim and Miss Pat. They had in a big event like that, it's been pretty sparse at times with both of them. But yeah, that's really good to see there at Five Flag Speedway.
Yeah, it was a good show. I can remember exactly how many they had. I know it was 10 or 15 more cars than they normally get.
Oh yeah.
For the ARCA East race, so it was a lot of fun. They were promoting it when I was listening to the truck race on the way, the Xfinity race on the way to Cotton Bowl on Saturday, and they were promoting the ARCA race there to give it some extra pub during the MRN broadcast. On the way to Cotton Bowl for the World Outlaw race. So that was kind of cool to see. And then check in on it. And you got to see how many they had. And you're like, wow, okay, good. That's a hell of a field. Good for Tim. Good for Tim, because he's supported that deal. Him and Bob Sargent been supporting that deal, that ARCA East race for a while, and it hadn't lived up to the potential that it could have been. And this year, I think it did.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. In the big time stuff that we like to call it, NASCAR racing yesterday. There you go. Racing at Homestead. I mean, that's a cool little place to race at right there. And it is our man Lawson. Lawson comes in, that was going in trying to pull the weekend sweep, the trifecta. Man, had a great car on Saturday. Not able to win that one. Did win on Friday. Didn't have the best car yesterday, but he wins again. And Larson able to take that home, and I think he'll be trying that again in Martinsville. So I think that he will equal Mr. Busch here sooner than later. Before we came on the air, we were kind of going back and forth a little bit with this whole Kyle Busch thing, where folks were like, he's going to Gibbs, he's going to retire, he's going to do this, that, and the other. I didn't think it was either one of those. This was much more in line with what I figured was happening. And you know what? I mean, good for them, but okay, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, hoping him and Brexton get to have a really good race together since they're both running the micro sprints or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So it should be fun. It'll definitely draw eyeballs and assholes or eyeballs and asses to seats. Make sure that the AI doesn't put that one out there.
Yeah. People will tune in to that, and that'll be on Dirt Vision. But that again, that's another one of those scenarios where I mean, and Brexton, great kid. I mean, great kid, but he's he's been trained to do this, and you put him in that stuff, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. He better be good. Better be good. Well, I say that Bronny James should be one of the almost great NBA players, and he's not. So it does take that natural talent, and that kid does seem to have it. So that'll be really cool to watch them, those two go at it at Millbridge, I believe that is, on Wednesday night on Dirt Vision. Lastly, a subject we don't talk about very often here on the Revved Up Sports Show, Formula One. What was it 3 dudes thrown out?
3 dudes thrown out.
Dang.
Both Ferraris DQ'd, man. They're trying to fight it, but I don't think it's going to do a lot of good.
Oh, man. So what was it? Underweight for Gasly and Leclerc, and then I'm not sure what Lewis's thing was.
I had something to do with too much skid pads or too much wear on the skid pad.
Excessive skid wear. He shit his pants.
So it's you gotta love the rules in Formula One.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good to see him win the sprint race on Friday night, Saturday morning, whatever you want to call that schedule. But it was. I listened to part of that race coming back from Cotton. I did pretty good. I got back at the house at 3:00 in the morning from Cotton Bowl. Normally, I'm not back till like 4, so I beat myself by an hour coming home on Saturday.
Man, Saturday night I was in bed at 8:45. 8:45. It wasn't even dark yet, Bobby. I was kind of going back and forth, watching some different things or whatever, and then I went and I had a little dinner. I'm kind of trying to do a little weight management thing that I'm doing, and it's one of those things to where when I eat dinner, it's like boom, I'm done. And seriously, it was. I mean, the dogs are looking at me. I seriously went up and I put my sleeping attire on, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And still a little bit of daylight out, and I was in bed on a Saturday night. Oh, how the mighty have fallen.
I say part of that's just getting old, but
well, the other part of it was I had been out at Q2 Stadium doing some stuff during the day, and then I had to get back on Sunday. But it was I slept. I text you. I think I texted you on Friday. I slept 12 hours Friday night. That never happens. 12 hours on Friday, 10 hours on Saturday.
Jeez.
I know. Hell, 9 hours last night. What in the hell is happening to me? Sleeping Beauty is going to be my new name.
Well, you don't have all that stress of having to announce at the races anymore, so.
Oh, is that what it is? Stress.
That's what it is. Stress.
I thought this job was fun. I thought we did this for fun.
Yeah, sometimes. I actually got nervous on Friday for first time in a long time, having announced next to Johnny Gibson. I was like, "Oh shit, what am I doing?" And then, of course, they come out in the exact opposite order they're supposed to come out in for hot lap sessions. So I got to look on a sheet that's not in numerical order, that's in heat race order, trying to figure out who the hell everybody is. Wait, okay, here is so and so from so and so, and this car. Yeah, the heats and stuff were a little bit easier to announce because they were in the right order.
Yeah. No, it's always a good time. Always a good time when those shows come in. And World of Outlaws rolling through Texas, and now they're done with that. But you do get high limits there at the end of April. So one other opportunity that's not in Texas, but it's right there on that Texarkana line, and that's another one of those towns. I kind of learned the hard way. I knew about Texarkana because I'd been over there, but when I went to Kansas City, I had to figure out that it's one of those towns as well that is in 2 states. Where it's like, okay, wait a minute, Kansas City, Kansas City, Missouri. I'm like, I don't understand all of that.
Because all the sports teams are in Missouri.
They're all in Missouri. That's exactly right. And that's quite the bitter conversation when you start having that with folks over there. But that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Well, everybody knows Texarkana because that's where they picked up the Coors beer. Smoking the Bandit.
Picked up the Coors, but that was in Texas. That was on the Texas side.
On the Texas side, yeah.
That was on the Texas side. Yeah, Coors. A lot of Coors. The Coors beer. Isn't that crazy? You used to couldn't do that. Wow. Man. Now it's just you throw it in the back of the truck and just go wherever you want. Just don't drink it while you're driving.
You can't drink it while you're driving, but you can pick it up almost anywhere now.
Well, you
except
can't.
when Yangling first picked up, because that's when we're walking out with. I'm walking out with like 4 cases of Yangling Light in Alabama at like 8 o'clock in the morning at a Buc-ee's. So
yeah, no, it's crazy.
You were there. You were driving. You were like, "What in the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, I had to ask."
Oh
yeah, we were driving back. You were driving back from the Derby.
Okay. Okay. I thought this was like on a race night. I'm like, I was driving. I'm like, damn, we were in a very bad predicament if you had my ass driving.
No, this is the next day. We stayed and left the next. That's when I had to ask the manager at Buc-ee's, "Hey, what's the earliest you can buy beer here?" Like, you could buy it now. I'm like, "All right, cool." So I was like, "Sorry, I'm from Texas," and they're like, "Man, for as much beer as you Texans drink, y'all got some weird alcohol laws down there still."
Those laws are stupid. I mean, and it's like in my travels, what I figured out was like when you go like on a regular, Wednesday or Thursday, when you go to the airport, you can't buy any booze until 7 a.m. I didn't know that. I've learned that as I was traveling. Now I'm not flying anymore, thank goodness, because everything's delayed. You hear about the flight delays in Austin on Friday? So it was trying to get out of ABIA, and it was the flights that are most impactful trying to get out of here, which is like Houston and Dallas, the hubs here that usually connect you to your final destination, as they say. They were locked down for like 3 hours because they didn't have any controllers. And it's like, well, I'm glad they shut it down. I'm glad that they stopped the traffic, because I don't want to be flying when there's not enough people up there trying to figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, they got to do something to fix that. That's becoming a little bit of a problem there, especially with the transportation the way that it is, as important as flying is. So,
have you seen that app that you can pull up to where it's like you're standing right here? And hell, maybe you showed me this. So if you did, I apologize. To where it's like you pull this app up, and it's like all the flights that are going over you at that moment. And it's like, what?
It wasn't me, but I've seen it.
Oh my God. I'm like that. Oh man. I'm glad I drive more now, honestly, for a lot of reasons, to be honest. It's just delays and so forth. That's not a good thing, and just it's kind of a mess right now. And people are not the most patient flyers. They get pissed off, and it's a mess. It's a mess.
Well, I mean, the people in airports, people watching is fun at an airport, but it's not fun when you get delayed, because then you get to then the real people get to come out, and you're like, oh dear God, that I didn't picture her being such a sawed off shotgun right there.
Yeah, that's when it gets really bad, and I feel bad for the employees or whoever it is, and the other passengers. Honestly, I mean, because there have been different times where I've been sitting in a one of those tarmacs or waiting area, whatever you call it, and these people are totally ballistic, and I'm pissed off, because I'm delayed. I mean, I've missed races because I couldn't get somewhere, and these people are all out of control, and I'm like, it's like uncomfortable, and it takes a lot for me to be uncomfortable, but when some of these people, when the claws come out and they just go ape shit and batshit crazy, I'm like, I just want to like on the cartoons when the ground opens up and you fall in. I'm like, can that happen right now? Because I don't want to be here right now. This is not good.
Well, at one time we were coming back from Mobile, our plane got delayed from Houston like an hour and a half because it was raining in Austin. They had to do the ground stop.
Yep, absolutely. If you're flying, I'm sorry, but anyway, all right, dude. Man, I didn't think we'd go an hour and a half today, but we did. So here we go once again on a #Real Race Talk Monday. Rest of the week, dude. This is kind of so I'm actually supposed to be on the road, like I mentioned, for the Power Eye race, the 410 sprints happening at Texas Motor Speedway. It's supposed to head up Saturday. Weather's going to be, I don't know, a little whatever. We've had the one cancellation that we talked about at the race ranch, so I think that that's the one thing that we would probably go ahead and recommend to people: check your weather conditions, and don't be bitching at your racetrack if they're trying to save you the money of making those trips. But so yeah, you could actually get to let your hair down this week, my friend.
Yeah, I get a little bit of a weekend off because it looks like the weekend after that I'm going back to Cotton Bowl just to go. And then the weekend after that is Texana. Weekend after that, I think I go back to Cotton Bowl maybe. And then we have the STEM series that's coming on the 26th of April. So
there it is.
Working with our buddy James Cole, had a good run in his limited modified there at the World of Outlaws there on Saturday night. Finished in the top 5, finished 4th. Got to look at the new 2025 Cotton Bowl merch. It looks good. Lots of good stuff from him. Saw the Dirty Air shirt inside the Stems trailer.
Oh my God,
the
they have
Stems
that in there?
ODS trailer. Had them all hanging up.
Oh
All different kind of people in there. So lots of cool stuff. But he's looking forward to. I got to email him this week to work on some shirt stuff for my personal brand. And then we're trying to get some of one of the Stems cars to display down at Texana on April the 12th. So if you have one of the Stems cars and you want to display your car at Texana, message me on Facebook or text me or get a hold of me however you can if you want to display your car down at Texana on April the 12th for the big races coming up on April the 26th. Might even be able to find a way to get you a couple of hot laps in. To showcase those big mods. So we'll know more as that gets closer. That's a couple of weeks out though. So
that's right. And that Stems schedule is scheduled to kick off this weekend, and you got a double header again, weather permitting, with everything that's going on. And this is going to be a good weather permitting test for them, because they're going to kind of be on opposite sides of the spectrum right here of the state of Texas, as they're set for Friday night at Heart of Texas Speedway, the world famous Heart of Texas Speedway, by the way. They are set to be there for that one. And then on March 29th on Saturday, heading over to I-37, just a little trip down the road. Nothing to it.
Better than a doubleheader from Heart of Texas down to Corpus the next day.
God, yeah, that
I'd have done like hot on Friday and then Cotton Bowl on Saturday, maybe.
Yeah.
That's what I'd have done, but they didn't consult us on the schedule. So
they do have that back-to-back with Waco and Corpus in July 25th and 26th. So I think the whole thing is, I mean, from Waco to 37, it won't be that bad. Maybe on a Saturday. I think I do recommend to people, if you're going to go in your GPS and it tells you go down 35 and all that, if you have a toll tag, go that way. The tollway is jacked up as shit too, but I mean that will help you a little bit. I mean, it's probably going to be under construction, but at least you'll be moving. 35 is a wreck. You people know that, so don't go that way. Maybe go a different way, or find the country roads. Find the country roads if you can get yourself out of here.
That's right.
All right, my man. Another great program in the books tonight. And we do thank Tim Crawley for checking in. Again, huge weekend coming up with Comp Cam's late models happening out there at 67 Speedway in Texarkana, Arkansas is the spot right there. Be sure and check them out. Get out to one of those racetracks and find you a racetrack around here. And if you can't, we have a full plethora of streamers that we work with. Of course, Racing America, Race On, Flow Racing. I mean, so many different ones. Track TV when it comes to some of the late model stuff. So there's not a way. And that's a funny thing, Bobby, when it's like a lot of people, last thought, when people are like, wow, so-and-so isn't showing my race. Well, I remember growing up as a kid, nobody showed my race. I had to go to the race. So go to the track. Right. It's still fun. It's still fun.
And don't be mad if you don't make the TV, because sometimes it happens.
That's right. That's right. Don't be mad if you don't make the TV. I love that. That needs to be one of our catchphrases right there. Don't be mad if you don't make the TV. We'll actually put that one with this.
Why do you care about what some guy puts on the internet who's a fat guy?
There it is. There it is. We'll put that there with that. We will clip that. All right, Bobby, have a great week, my man. Be good out there. Be safe. Blessings to all of you folks that are checking in tonight. We will do it again next Monday. #Real Race Talk. It is the live cast. We've been doing it for a lot of years, and we will continue to do it with the great guests, the commentary, the opinions, and everything that you love right here with the Revved Up Sports Show. Showtime, Bobby Chaffee. I'm Rodney Rodriguez. We will see you guys next week.